For today, in the name of freedom, we take the battle to them.
Hello and welcome to my tier list ranking of all of the Transformers movies. I've been wanting to do this for a very long time, and I was going to do it for the Spider-Man franchise, but then I was like, okay, Venom 3 comes out soon, right? Earlier in the year I wanted to do it, but I hadn't watched Madam Web. Then I watched it. Then I was like, okay, Venom 3 comes out in October. I should probably wait for that. But then at the same time, Kraven the Hunter comes out in December, so I should probably wait for that. So that'll be like a near the end of the year thing. But with Transformers, of course, nothing new is going to be added for a while. So let's get into this. So as you can see over here, we do have the tier names. I did try, okay. Give me an A for effort. We got Scrap, which is obviously absolute garbage. Then we have What Have They Done? That's supposed to be like, what have I done? Except it's What Have They Done? Beneath the Enemy Scrotum, which is like just better than bad. Rollout, and then of course at the top, what else could I have put other than Light Hour, Darkest Hour? So I will be going in release order. So, in fact, I should probably put them in release order, shouldn't I? Well, I mean, that would have been smart. Actually, you know what? You can sit here and watch me do that. So, obviously, I have now seen every film in the franchise, thankfully. TF1 was like the only one which was evading me for so long because it took like a week to come out. But I say that at the same time, some places, it only came out on like the 11th, alright? Which was my birthday. So, okay, you know what? That's good enough. Who cares? We'll do the animated things first. So here we're gonna start with the original, and that is the one from 1986. The one that started it all in terms of movies. And I am going to put this in Beneath the Enemy Scrotum. Oh god. Oh, this is not going to look good, is it? Look, I want to look at it objectively, okay? I don't, because obviously, yes, I was introduced to the franchise with the live action movies, but from what I've seen after live action films, like TFP and all of this, it's clear that I don't just love the live action things. I really like a lot of Transformers, like Beast Wars, TFP, all of that. But the 86 movie, it's something that I could never love. The Unicron and Galvatron were really the only things that I cared about in that movie. It's not a good standalone film because this takes place like after season 1 or something, or season 2 in the G1 continuity. So you cannot watch this by itself. You'll feel a little bit isolated because obviously you have like little connection with the characters. Optimus Prime, Megatron, and I wouldn't even say Bumblebee. Really, it's only Optimus and Megatron that you have a connection with. Unicron, of course, everyone knows Unicron. This was his big debut. So, yeah. Look, just as a movie, as a standalone, like how it's structured and all of that, it's just a very messy thing. And I feel like people just praise it like there's no tomorrow just because it was the first one. And I say this for a lot of franchises where people just go on and on and on about the original. That doesn't mean it's the best. Doesn't mean it's the best. There's plenty of franchises where I enjoy the sequels more, but yeah, this is the one where it's very clear that it's the nostalgia from people talking, because the movie by itself is not amazing. It's not fantastic, but it's not horrible. So I know this is obviously after like the '07 Revenge of the Fallen and all that, but here we have Beast Hunters. This was Predacons Rising. I am going to put this probably just above the '86 movie. The reason why I do that is just because of the ending. And, you know, while obviously I love Transformers Prime, I love it. It is the best thing to ever come out of Transformers. But, you know, I gotta be fair. Just like the '86 movie, you cannot watch this by itself. It is the ending of Transformers Prime. You know, it'll be like watching Logan before the first X-Men movie, which I stupidly did. Don't get me started on that, please. That's what it is. That's what it is. And, you know, it was good. It was much more enjoyable than the '86 movie, in my opinion. Okay, it's my opinion, relax. And the only reason I can see why people don't like this one, and that is because I sort of agree with it, is what they did with Megatron at the end. Because Megatron, that Transformers Prime version of Megatron is perfect. You know, there's nothing I would change about him apart from his final scene, because yes, obviously he was kind of controlled by Unicron the whole film, and you know, even he couldn't control himself, because when Unicron got out of his head, you see him looking at his hands and everything, and then all of a sudden he's just like, the Decepticons are no more, and then he just flies off. It's very abrupt, and I didn't like how oh god, I can't even talk. Did not like how they handled it. And really, that is the only thing that is stopping Beast Hunters from being a bit higher. I know that people didn't like how the Predacons were handled in Beast Hunters because of in Predacons Rising, Beast Hunters, whatever, because you know, they were kind of treated as like the Transformers versions of dinosaurs, you know, like these ancient species. But of course, in Beast Wars, the Predacons were the descendants of the Decepticons. So, two different iterations, it's completely fine. We have different continuities, and it's okay, because I really liked how they did the Predacons in this movie. Now we have the '07 film. Arguably, the reason that Transformers is so popular, and really it's the only, like, whether you like the live action films or not, you cannot deny this is the only reason that Transformers became such a big name. So with that, I'm going to put it in rollout. Actually, no, fuck it, I'm putting it in light on Darkest Hour. This movie is awesome. It's so cool. Yes, it does take like an hour for the Autobots to show up, but when they do, it is so good. One of the best scenes of the franchise, when Michaela and Sam get out of Bumblebee, they look up into the sky, and you just see these things coming to Earth, and you hear that score. Oh my god, it's amazing. It's so good. And you know, this movie, it's kind of like Across the Spider-Verse, where the first half is very slow. I mean, with Across the Spider-Verse, it's different because it's like setting up things for the second half, you know, like laying the groundwork. Here, the movie is just slow, but then the second half is like insane. So, I mean, this movie just has so many iconic moments. Of course, the entire fight sequence at the end, you know, at the end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall. When Peter Cullen delivered that line, it was so cool. But yeah, I mean, I can go on and on about this movie. While the first half isn't the best thing in the world, you gotta admit, the second half really makes up for it. It's so good. Oh man, TF07. Hats off to you, man. Hats off to you. Then we have Revenge of the Fallen. This is a movie which, even when I first saw it, even when I was a kid and I watched this movie, I hated it. I I hate Revenge of the Fallen. This is literally the definition of a movie, of a bad film with CGI characters. The reason why, what I mean by that is, you come to these movies to see the CGI characters, right? To see the Transformers. But 90% of it is human characters. And that's why people loved Sonic the Hedgehog 2, is because even, like after the first movie, the CGI characters are front and center. It's their story, you follow them. This movie, it is so boring. It's so bad. And the thing is, I didn't say this in the '07, but I don't care for Sam or Michaela. I always hated Michaela from the time I was a kid. Yes, even though she looks like Megan Fox, I always hated her. So I hated this movie more because it had her front and center basically. And Shia LaBeouf, he was annoying, yeah, but now I kind of like him in retrospect because it's just a stupid fun character. But Revenge of the Fallen, what I like to think of it as is Friday the 13th Transformers edition, or because that's basically what this is, because this movie is horny as hell. Holy crap. Like, what oh my god, it's so bad, it's horrible. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some really good scenes in here, most notably, of course, do I even need to say what it is? The freaking forest fight. That is one scene where, when I was a kid, I was like, this is cool. But then I heard people like obsess over it. I'm like, it's not that amazing. It's cool. But then when I rewatched it a couple of years ago, I was like, yeah, no, this warrants that that reaction, because that entire forest fight is so cool. Because you just have Optimus, who is like all damaged, broken, and he just takes on Megatron, Starscream, Grinder. He kills one of them. He takes the arm off one of them. It's so cool. But yeah, the Revenge of the Fallen. You see how long it's been. I've been recording for like 3 minutes talking about just this movie, and I didn't bring up the villain, whose name is in the title. The Fallen is probably the second worst villain in this franchise. He is utter crap because he doesn't do anything. He's literally what Null is going to be in Venom 3. That's what the Fallen is. Except, at least, I mean, the Fallen gets out of his chair, to be fair. But you have a Cybertronian who is an original Prime, has telekinetic powers, and is literally going to just destroy the sun. And you didn't feel like a threat because I guess if you had him kill Optimus Prime, that would have been cooler. But I don't know, it would have made him a little more threatening. But I don't know, man. Revenge of the Fallen is a movie that I never liked, and I really don't see myself liking it in the future because the human side is boring. The Transformers are like, what, you could remove all of the Transformers from this movie, or at least the Autobots. You could remove all the Autobots from this movie and it wouldn't change. The only reason Optimus is in the film is to kill the Fallen and to stop the world from ending, at the end of the film, which is a lackluster final battle anyway. But yeah, you could literally remove all the Autobots and the movie would not change. So that is enough of that. Transformers Dark of the Moon. Very rarely in franchises, especially action ones, are the later films better than the originals. But that being said, Dark of the Moon, there we go. Dark of the Moon. This is how you do a sequel. Holy shit. This is amazing. It is like my second favorite film of all time, and I don't think I can express how much I love this movie. Is it perfect? No, but it is damn close. The main reason why I love this movie, and I think why everyone loves the movie, is because of the action. The action is unrivaled. There's no Transformers film, there's no action film, nothing comes close to the CGI and the action in Transformers Dark of the Moon. This movie is so badass, it is unbelievable. And another reason why I kind of like it is because we got rid of Michaela. As I said, I always hated her. And I know I'm in the minority here, but I much prefer Carly. I'm sorry. But, oh man, this movie is just, it's amazing. There's so many things that I could talk about with it. Sentinel Prime, the bastard, Sentinel killing Ironhide, the CGI in this movie again. I mean, this is with almost all the Transformers movies, mainly the Michael Bay ones. The CGI is just unmatched. Like, there's very few movies out there that can, come on the level of these live-action Transformers films. Just the villains of this movie, as I said, Sentinel Prime, but then you even have like the little side bosses. You got Shockwave, who was gonna be the main villain, and you got Megatron kind of just lurking in the darkness. He's kind of like Palpatine in the original Star Wars trilogy, just kind of chilling in the back, letting everyone else do his work. Except this is the movie, and this is why I love Dark of the Moon as well, is because it finally makes Megatron again. It's not for long, but it's better than nothing, because of course in the first movie he was the threat. He was the main threat. And I cannot tell you how many times I replayed that scene from the 07 movie of him just breaking out of the ice and him going, "I am Megatron." It's so awesome. Then in the second movie, he just became the Fallen's bitch, really. And it was so disgraceful seeing him, go, "My master, I failed you." I'm like, that is not what Megatron would do. It's not what he would do. Then in Dark of the Moon, it's where they kind of fix it, because in this film he isn't really reporting to Sentinel Prime. He's just working with him. He never shows any sense of respect towards Sentinel, and that's what I loved about it. Because it never hints at the fact that Megatron is inferior. It's just showing that he's slowly kind of just not being as authoritative, and that's gonna let Sentinel Prime take his place as like leader. And that's what Carly does at the end. She's like, "You'll be nothing but Sentinel's bitch." And that's when Megatron, like, it clicks, and that's when he absolutely decimates Sentinel. And yes, I know the ending was changed, that Optimus was supposed to spare Megatron, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like after killing Jazz and killing Optimus, and nearly killing half of the entire human race, I feel like killing Megs is justifiable. I hate the people who call Bayverse Prime a psychopath. When, have you seen what this man has lost? Have you seen the amount of friends that he has lost because of this guy? Wheeljack Q literally got executed. A sad scene in the franchise, even though we only knew him for one movie. He didn't even have that much screen time, but who cares? It's fine. But yeah, Dark of the Moon, I love this movie. I really, really do. But this is where you're gonna hate me. Transformers: Age of Extinction. Oh god. Oh no, dude. Oh god, why? This is not gonna go well. Look, okay. Allow me to explain. So, there are plenty of movies, countless movies, that I saw when I was a kid. And well, not a kid, but when I was younger, right? And I loved them. But as I watched them in like every couple of years, I was like, I don't know how I liked this as a kid. How did I think this was cool? Age of Extinction is the first thing I ever saw of the Transformers franchise. It's the first time I ever heard of them, and this to me was the most badass thing in the world at the time. And yes, you can see it is still below Dark of the Moon, so I'm not like completely biased towards it just because of nostalgia. I saw Dark of the Moon afterwards, and there are plenty of reasons as to why I love Age of Extinction. First of all, I think that this is a reasonable continuation of the franchise. I know Michael Bay didn't want to do it, but it doesn't feel like a sequel that was just made for the sake of getting money. It doesn't feel like that. This feels like a realistic, kind of logical continuation of the franchise, because obviously after all the damage that was caused in Chicago, regardless of who's on whose side, the humans will just be like, the Cybertronians, the aliens brought this to us, to our planet. We're not taking any more of this. So it doesn't matter whose side the Autobots or Decepticons were on, they are the targets. And that's what I loved about Age of Extinction, is it really showed what will happen when you have these unbelievable events happen. And this is how the world is. No matter what happens, there's always people on different sides of the fence as to what as to what actually happened and who they support. And Age of Extinction as a movie, I thought was just so cool. The humans, granted, are not the best in the world, but I feel like at least Tessa and Cade are satisfactory, because at least Cade was useful. What did Sam do in the entire trilogy? He killed Starscream. Okay, congratulations. You killed a giant metal Dorito. Well done, Sam. Like, Cade at least fights back. He can fight the Cybertronians. Well, not Cybertronians, the KSI bots, I guess. But he killed them. He killed loads of them. So it was nice having that whole thing. And I also found his relationship with Tess to be somewhat interesting. Shane, no one cares about Shane, but yeah, just everything about this movie. The music, oh my god, it is some of the best in the franchise. Because don't get me wrong, I love the Dark of the Moon soundtrack. The highway chase, it's our fight, all of that I love. But Age of Extinction has some of the best music. It is unbelievable how good it is. Lockdown's theme is phenomenal. It's so good. And I didn't even talk about that. Lockdown is undoubtedly, in my opinion, the best villain in the franchise. He is badass. He has no sort of allegiance to anybody except the creators. And I love that. I love that we have a kind of neutral villain. Because yes, you could argue that we did have Scourge. Scourge is kind of neutral because he serves Unicron, but Unicron didn't create him. He didn't create him. He did upgrade him, but he didn't create him. And that's why I really love this whole dynamic between Lockdown and everyone else, the humans, the Autobots, everything like that. Because, even when he finds Ratchet, he's like, Autobots, Decepticons, like little children, always fighting. And you get just that line, immediately sets up his character, that he finds this war childish. He's literally saying, you're like little children. What is this nonsense? And I'm always the one cleaning up the messes. So I love that. The CGI, the action sequences, of course, in this movie are amazing. The Dinobots, Don't get me wrong, if I was watching all the trailers and things as it was coming out, I would have been so annoyed that the Dinobots were only at the end. Because there are plenty of movies nowadays that do this, where they only focus on the last like 10-15 minutes of the movie and take that and put in all the trailers and TV spots. Meg 2, The Trench, Halloween Ends, something else that came out recently. But yeah, this movie is just so cool. I love the music. I love Optimus Prime as a character in this one. I feel like in terms of writing, this is the best that Optimus Prime has ever been. And I know you're going to disagree with me on that because in Rise of the Beast he has a similar arc, but here I think it's handled way better. And I will get to that when I get to the Rise of the Beast, well when I get to it. But yeah, I think that the way that they handle Prime's arc in this film is just so good. Not to mention, I know I'm in the minority again, but I love his design. I love the night look. It's so clean and beautiful. And not only that, the Autobot team, don't get me wrong, do not get me wrong, I love the 07 crew. They are the OGs, and Ironhide, Jazz, and Ratchet. You can't go wrong with them. But this actually felt like a team. They worked in conjunction with each other really well. It flowed naturally, like they knew each other really well. And they just felt more like a group of friends than the 07 crew. The 07 crew, yes, they felt like friends, but here they just feel closer, and they feel more like a team. So yeah, that's enough of me rambling on with this. Also, I think the ending of this movie is perfect. And the runtime is not an issue to me. I know a lot of people hate the fact that this movie is like 2.5 hours. And while I really would love to get mad at them, I feel the same way about the Batman. So, it doesn't matter. Then we have Transformers: The Last Knight. Oh man. Oh god. Okay. Obviously, it's one of the bottom tiers. But I don't know which one is going in. I am going to put it... I'll put it above Revenge of the Fallen. Now, look. This movie holds a record for me. And that is, it is my most disappointing movie of all time. And that is so sad to say. Because really this movie has done more damage to the franchise than we knew initially. When this movie was announced, before it was announced, at the end of Age of Extinction, I was like, okay, this next movie is going to be so amazing because we are going to get Galvatron as like the main villain, which is going to be so cool. Then, of course, we were getting like all the different rumors and things about, like Unicron and some other Autobots. Some other Autobots, some Decepticons. And I was like, this is going to be so cool. This movie is going to be amazing. But then it just it was like, what are we doing here? Like, what the hell is this? Because the entire thing about the marketing was Optimus being evil. And I still remember, December of 2016 when that trailer dropped, and my one friend showed me. He was like, "Dude, did you see this?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he says the trailer for the new Transformers is out. And I'm going, "No way!" And I watched it, and I think we were all just in shock when we saw Prime slam B on the ground, and he was like, "Forgive me." That is something I'll never forget. And as soon as I saw that, I phoned him and I was like, dude, that is Nemesis Prime. That is so cool. And, yes, it was very much wasted. I don't understand what they were thinking when they were doing this, but I don't understand this. I don't know why they put it in all the marketing and all of that, but they just didn't do anything with it in the movie. Like, he's evil. He comes to Earth after like 10 minutes, and then he has one fight with B, and then magically he's back to normal. But the reason why this movie is above Revenge of the Fallen is because the Transformers are more of the focus of the film, and they actually serve a purpose to the story. Like the entire movie is centered around the Transformers, and that's really what we wanted. Yes, I know the title is The Last Knight, and really it should have been Optimus who was the last knight, but it wasn't, it was Cade. But there's more scenes in this movie that get me hyped than Revenge of the Fallen. With Revenge of the Fallen, it's just the forest fight, and then that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Here, you got the scene when Prime goes to Cybertron, and you have this really ominous kind of, not background, not scenery, you know what I'm trying to say, environment, I guess. That scene is just so good. The scene of Megatron, getting his team together, yes, it's an awesome scene. It doesn't go anywhere, but it's a cool scene. The fight between Prime and B, and countless scenes in the final battle, most notably when Optimus does, come in on Dragonstorm's back, does a double, like a roll, and he throws his sword in the air, and then when he's done rolling, he catches the sword, and and then of course, it's not like a joke in movies where the villains, if there's like multiple villains, they'll all go and attack the hero like one at a time, so it's easy for the hero to kill them. Here, all the Infernicons ran at him at once, and he just took the sword and just decapitated all of them in one slice. And it was like, I am Optimus Prime. It's so cool, man. It's such a shame that this movie ended up being crap, because I was so excited. I was like, okay, what I want for the next movie, what's going to happen is, at the end of the movie, Optimus is going to grab the seed, he's going to activate it, and then he's going to throw it at Galvatron, and it's going to go into the hole in his chest, and when it starts getting grinded up, it's going to detonate, and that's how Galvatron's going to die. Oh, sweet young Chavez, you did not know that they were going to completely get rid of Galvatron and bring Megatron back, which, on that note, I hate the fact that they brought Megs back without an explanation. It made no sense. It made absolutely no sense. Oh my god. It's so bad. But another thing about this movie, which the later movies, I say the later movies, it's only one film, but here it's kind of sprinkled throughout the movie, there's a couple of it, is the transformations started getting a little lazy here. Like Megatron, the first time we see Megatron, in daylight, when he's flying and then he starts transforming, and the wings and things just collapse, and all of a sudden they just vanish. It made no sense. It looked cool, but it made no sense. So, yeah, I think that's enough of The Last Knight. And really, if this movie had been good, if it had been like Dark of the Moon level, not only would this movie have been amazing, we would have gotten the next one, which, I'm telling you, if we had gotten the next movie, that would have been like the Avengers Endgame of Transformers, because we had Unicron set up, meaning that we could get like a TFP thing where we have his ghost, then we have, Optimus at the end saying, it's time to come home, meaning we can get any Autobots we wanted. Every Autobot that didn't show up in this franchise could now come to Earth. We could have gotten Cliffjumper. We could have gotten Blur. I was going to say Alita 1. Alita 1 died, didn't she? But yeah, it would have been so cool, man. But anyway, we wait for Transformers Rise of Unicron. Next up is Bumblebee. And Bumblebee. Oh. I'm kind of screwing myself here, aren't I? I can't just put everything in the top tier, can I? Well then. Crap. Okay. You know what? I don't care. I don't care. it's my tier list. I can do whatever I want with it. So yes, I'm gonna put Bumblebee at the top. And there's so many reasons why Bumblebee is at the top. Just because as far as an objective movie goes, I think that this is the second best in the franchise. Now, this movie, again, is kind of it's the strange movie in the franchise because it is both a prequel and a reboot. And I know there's going to be people who are like, it's a reboot! Yes, but when this movie was announced, when it was made, most importantly, it was a prequel. And that's kind of the thing with this movie, is it doubles. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can be a reboot and a prequel. You know, it's kind of like the Halloween franchise, where there's like 5 different timelines, but all the different timelines are here. But if you go down the family tree, then it all comes back to the original Halloween from 1978. That is kind of what the Bumblebee movie is that it's kind of the beginning of both timelines of live action Transformers. So, you know, it's a great film. It really is. You know, while yes, it is kind of like the generic, okay, alien comes to Earth, military wants to hunt it, it meets a human, it you know, makes friends with a human helps alien, and then, you know, a happy ending. But I feel like just because it's Transformers, we appreciate this more. And the main reason why I love this movie is not because of Bumblebee, not because of the opening, even though the opening is phenomenal. I say that as someone who never grew up with G1. I love that opening. Seeing all of them with their classic designs. I wish we could have seen Megatron, but I'll get to that. Actually, no, I won't. I'll get to it now. We are never seeing Megatron in live action again, by the way. We're never seeing it until Lorenzo dies. Oh, jeez. Okay, a bit much. Unless Lorenzo gets fired or steps away or whatever, we are never seeing Megatron in live action ever again, because he is so hell-bent on connecting everything to the live-action Bayverse films. He thinks he's some sort of genius. He thinks he's Professor X. You know, he thinks he's so smart. And it's so annoying because Megatron was supposed to be in this movie. He was supposed to be at the end, kind of all frozen, obviously, prequel. Well, it was a prequel. And it's just a shame that we're never going to see actual Megatron with the G1 design in live action. So, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, sorry. The main reason I love this movie is not because of Bumblebee, not because of the opening, but because of Charlie. Charlie is undoubtedly the best human character in this franchise. I can say that comfortably. There is absolutely no competition. I think that her story is undoubtedly the best. It comes full circle. You see how she is in the beginning. It's a natural progression. Nothing feels forced or rushed. And then you get to the end where her character finally has closure, where she fixes her dad's car. And that is just so good to see. And you know, granted, it could be my bias. It could be my bias, because obviously anybody who's lost like a parent or something, you know, but we all kind of connect to that a lot more. You know, when I went to go watch this movie in the cinema, I was like, that was good. I really liked Charlie as a character, but obviously back then, you know, nothing had happened, so I was like, I didn't appreciate it as much. But now, obviously, given certain things that have happened, which really I shouldn't be joking about, but I appreciate her story way more because I'm basically in her shoes. You know, like her talking about her dad and everything like that. It was brilliant. And the way that Bumblebee kind of helps her get through that, but also she helps Bumblebee get through his situation. She helps him kind of adapt to Earth. And it's just so good, man. It's so good. And I wish that we can get a Transformers film like this in live action again. But it's just because it was so simple. It's a very simple movie. It's small scale. The villains are also small scale. Shudder and Dropkick, awesome villains, really cool. I love that they're triple changes. That has got to be like one of the coldest moments in the franchise in terms of the transformations, is when they are like in helicopter and jet mode, and they just kind of fall down to the ground, transform into the cars, and then they transform into the robots, and they just start running. Dude, it's awesome. It's so cool. It's amazing. So yeah, those two I think are just absolutely fantastic antagonists. So yeah, Bumblebee, definitely a fantastic film. I feel like anybody who didn't grow up on the Bayverse, anyone who looks at these things objectively, I think that this is going to be like at the top of the list, probably. Next up is Rise of the Beasts. Now, if you had asked me this maybe a year ago, if to do this tier list, I would probably put Rise of the Beasts about there. However, since then, I'm going to knock it down to there. And there's plenty of reasons as to why I have knocked it down so low. And the main reason is, the main problem that Rise of the Beasts had was that it was way too ambitious. They tried doing way too much in this movie. And especially with this being like one of the shortest Transformers movies, trying to shove that all into that small runtime is impossible. They tried introducing, the new Autobots. There were like 5 new Autobots. You had to introduce the Terracons. You had to introduce the Maximals. You had to introduce Unicron. You had to introduce the new human characters. They wanted to set up the crossover with G.I. Joe, which is so freaking dumb, but I'm not going to get into that. And that's the main reason why Rise of the Beast just kind of flopped with everything it tried to do. All of those things. The Autobots. Really, Optimus is the only one you care about, because Bumblebee in this movie, he was basically non-existent. Sorry, Primus. Then the Maximals, Primal, really, Primal and Airazor got all the focus. This movie is called Rise of the Beasts, and Optimus Primal and Airazor were the only ones that got, character, it got focus. Cheetor, dude, I was so excited. I was gonna get my continent represented in Transformers. It was from Zimbabwe. I was so excited. But Cheetor barely said anything. And then Rhinox. Oh my god. Rhinox didn't say a word. He didn't say a word. But the CGI. The CGI in Rise of the Beast is noticeably worse than all the other movies. That's because it's a different studio. So, while yes, I can forgive that, there's one thing, and I hinted at it when I was talking about The Last Night, is the transformations in Rise of the Beasts are god-awful. These are some of the worst I have ever seen. And actually, not some. These are the worst that I've ever seen, because what Rise of the Beast tried to do was to be all cool and stylish, like, look how cool this is. And with that, almost every transformation had some sort of, like, the character rolling forward. And you could just see how lazy the CGI artists were with this movie. I feel bad talking about it in this way, given how much I praised it last year, but I gotta be fair. The CGI people were just so lazy, because they would deliberately have most of the characters transform in a way that you don't see certain things move around. With the Bayverse, they had, like, when a character transformed, you would see everything move. You'd see the car like front bit just kind of form over the chest. You'd see these random little pieces come over on the shoulders. You'd see the bonnet fold up and go into the back. You'd see the tires kind of just roll around in there. It was so good. But with Rise of the Beasts, they did everything they could to hide the transformations. And to give you some good examples, with RC probably had the laziest, because what happened, she would literally, every single time, she would just flip. Like every single time RC was on screen, she would do a flip, and it was so sickening. And that was how she transformed as well. Is she would literally just be in bite mode, and then, and she's just a blur. Obviously, because she's moving quickly, is literally just a blur, and then all of a sudden, oh, she's in robot mode. Wow, we didn't see anything move, but she's in robot mode somehow. Then Optimus Prime, freaking Optimus Prime, when he's getting chased by Scourge, and he transforms, you know, you see the kind of the front of the truck fold away. I'm like, oh yes, we're gonna get a transformation. But then Optimus does a roll, and then when he's done rolling, everything is basically done. You literally just see the window chess pieces do this, and and that's the transformation. It's I can't believe it. Then I know I'm going on for a long time, but I gotta express my annoyance with this. In the Maximize scene, you know, Primal. Actually, who maximizes first? Rhinox maximizes first. He's in Rhino mode. He does like a forward roll, and then you just see two things come over his shoulders when he's back on his legs, and he's back to being being robot mode now. Cheetor jumps on a rock. You see his cheetah head kind of come down, but again he does a forward roll, and he's in robot mode. Optimus Primal, you see his battle mask kind of fold over his face, and then he jumps in the air, and obviously his upper torso, his torso upwards is really the only thing that changes. So obviously his waist twists around 180 degrees, and then when it's back, oh, would you look at that, he's fully transformed. So yeah, I hate the transformations in Rise of the Beast, but this movie had some awesome scenes in it. It really did. Of course, the whole On My Soul sequence was fantastic. It was brilliant. Especially when Scourge calls for reinforcements, and you just see all of the Scorponok kind of come down, and so that on guard, it's about to go down. It was so cool. And of course you have the scene of Prime about to sacrifice himself, and that gets me every time, even though I know he's not gonna die. It's just as soon as Yelena says the panel, it's destroyed, we can't stop it, that's when you see Optimus's eyes. That's when, oh my god, he's gonna die. No. But yeah, obviously I know he's not gonna die. But yeah, Noah I thought was a decent human character, and Elena was annoying as hell. I'm not gonna lie to you. She was not funny. She was very annoying. So I'm not, like, no hate to the actress, obviously it's the scriptwriters, but yeah, I just didn't care for her character. And the final thing about Rise of the Beast is that there's nothing really memorable from the middle of the movie. You have, okay, genuinely I want you to think about the scenes of Rise of the Beast that stand out to you. The opening sequence, Maximize. Maybe opening sequence, museum fight, Maximize. That's it. That's it. Like, between the museum fight and the final battle beginning, there isn't really anything of substance, and it's just very boring and slow, which is crazy because I literally said at the beginning of this segment that this is one of the shortest Transformers movies. So yeah, they really rushed way too much with this, and they tried to do their Avengers Endgame. It didn't work though. And finally, we have Transformers 1. Now, this could be the recency bias. It very well could be the recency bias. But I am going to put this movie in Light Our Darkest Hour. Look, I'll revisit it in a year. And, but I mean, this movie comes out on digital in like what? The 16th? Like 8 days. 8 days it comes out on digital. This movie was great. It really, really was. And you could tell that they really cared when they made this movie, because it is what Transformers fans want, and that is just Transformers. You know, no humans, nothing like that. And yes, I love the Transformers live action franchise. I really do, because you know, you see something turn into like I don't know, like a Mercedes or a Lamborghini or something like that. And when you see that car in real life, you're like, oh my god, it's Lockdown, it's Soundwave, you know, all of that. But you don't have that sense of style that animated Transformers has. Transformers Prime, that, because obviously that, much like this, is 3D animation, you can do a lot more with the physics of animated models. With the live action things, you obviously have to kind of keep things realistic, so they have to have like weight when they punch things. With the animated things, while yes, you do still feel those punches and that movement, it is a lot faster, and I feel like that's so much better. And that's really what I love. And you know, it does help Transformers a lot, because they don't have to worry about any of this licensing rubbish, you know, sacrificing the toys, the figures. And it's ridiculous, because you know, you get figures like the Studio Series Mirage. That figure, the only reason to get it is because of its vehicle mode. The Porsche mode looks fantastic. The robot mode looks terrible. So, you know, with here, you don't have that problem. But this movie by itself, I feel like is very much like the what I said about the 07 movie. Is that first bit, maybe not half the movie, maybe like a third of it, is pretty slow. And it kind of sets things up. You know, like Spider-Verse, it sets things up. And then later on, you just see, oh my god, this is where we're going. Because, of course, we knew Megatron was going to be evil by the end. Well, not evil, but like antagonistic towards Orion Pax. And that's where I was like, I don't know how they're going to do this naturally. Because they marketed this movie terribly. Terribly. TF Hype Guy did like 100% more, 100 times the marketing than they did, and he wasn't even paid for it. And he got interviewed by like the Hollywood Handle or something. You know, it's crazy. It really, really is. And that's why when the kind of test screenings for this movie came out, and people were like, "This is amazing. This is the best movie of the year," I was like, I love Transformers. But what are these people smoking? Like, what is going on? How is that the best movie of the year? I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I don't really understand until I saw the movie. And that's when I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. And you know, it's obviously much more exciting if you're a Transformers fan, because there's so many things that you notice throughout the movie that are like little Easter eggs, little callbacks to certain things. Well, not callbacks, references. It's just so good. It really, really is. The story between Orion and D16, I thought was handled fantastically. And yeah, it's so good. It really is. And I think I've rambled on about this movie long enough during my spoiler review, which if you want to check that out, please go check that out. But yeah, I feel like if this movie, once the recency bias kind of dies off, I feel like the lowest it'll go is there. I really don't think it can get any lower than that, just because I think there was a fair amount of the movie that was funny, but I still need to watch it a second time to judge it fairly. Bumblebee was the main comedic thing of the movie. But yeah, this movie was brilliant. It handled the characters of Optimus and Megatron really naturally. It had both of them being created simultaneously, which genius sequence. Genius. That is so good. You got music from Transformers Prime. You got Bayverse references in here, which was not expecting that. But yeah, this is basically a love letter to Transformers fans. And if we do get a sequel, fingers crossed, I really am so excited to see these guys back, because while I still am not 100% loving Brian Tyree Henry, well, I do love him as Megatron. I just feel like, yes, it could have been better. He did have a lot of good lines. Like most of the lines were delivered fantastically, but there's just so much of it where I cannot watch it without envisioning Brian Tyree Henry's face. I can't look at it and not go, that's Bernie from Godzilla vs. Kong, or it's just something like that. But oh my god, I love to ramble, don't I? I love it. It's alright. But yeah, that is basically it. Again, if you want to see more details on my thoughts on Transformers 1, go watch my spoiler review. So I think this is the first time I have done a tier list where I've left a tier blank. I don't really feel that bad about it, because it's my tier list and I can do what I want with it. But yeah, I know that there's going to be some really, really hated things in this tier list. But please let me know your thoughts on my thoughts on these things. And yeah, please, just anything and everything with this franchise, with these movies, please let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it. So if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and goodbye.